Mr. Greer,
Why should Canada respect the U.S. is operating in good faith?
is it true that Howard Lutnick scuttled the talks?
Donald Trump's cabinet members are running away from MeidasTouch correspondents when we've been trying to ask them questions about Donald Trump's attack on Canada. You saw right there Donald Trump's trade representative, Jamieson Greer. The trade representative is a cabinet level position, and he ran away from Luke Radel. Luke is a MeidasTouch White House correspondent who is asking a very basic question of Jamieson Greer, the U.S. trade representative. Is it true that Howard Lutnick scuttled the talks? Jamieson Greer was also asked, why should Canada respect that the U.S. is operating in good faith? Now, I want to remind you that the despicable United States ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, previously reached out to MeidasTouch and our Meidas Canada division, which is run by Charlie Angus. And this is what Hoekstra wrote back on September 11th, 2025. It's been 1 year since Hoekstra wrote this letter to the head of Meidas Canada, Charlie Angus. And Charlie Angus has repeatedly invited Pete Hoekstra numerous times to do an interview on Meidas Canada. But Hoekstra has run away from MeidasTouch and Meidas Canada. We have a lot of questions that we wanted to ask him, of course, about how the United States is attacking Canada and how it's backfiring on the United States, and that no American wants this except the despicable Trump regime. Do you remember when Hoekstra wrote us this letter right here? Dear Mr. Angus, I write to personally extend my gratitude for your public words of condolences and support for Charlie Kirk and his family. I also thank you for your strong words condemning the horrific act of violence that took his life. Political violence of any kind has no place in the world. I appreciate your continued support for the shared values that define both of our countries. A little bit of gaslighting there by Pete Hoekstra. A lot of gaslighting there. But what else would you expect from the most despicable ambassador to Canada in history from the United States? But this is who the Trump regime is. I want to show you one more time Greer running away from the MeidasTouch White House correspondent. And then I want to dig into a little bit more right here, because you will recall that in the past 24 hours, Donald Trump admitted that he changed the terms regarding the negotiations with Canada at the last minute. Trump says, I did it. Sounds like me. And then Jamieson Greer's like, he didn't really mean that. He didn't mean what he said. This is how sloppy and disgusting and fascist the Trump regime is. But here he is running away. I'll play it one more time. Let's play it.
Mr. Greer,
Why should Canada respect the U.S. is operating in good faith?
is it true that Howard Lutnick scuttled the talks?
Now, Jim Scudo of CNN reported the following. In a phone call with me after U.S.-Canada trade negotiations collapsed, Donald Trump suggested the U.S. had added conditions late during talks. That sounds like me, Trump responded when asked about Canadian officials' assertion about the U.S. late-stage demands. When I pressed, says Jim Scudo over at CNN, so you don't deny it, Donald? Then Donald Trump replied, no, I don't deny anything, so no. They have to pay a fair amount, and if they don't pay a fair amount, we won't make a deal. That's fine. Then the Trump regime's White House posted this despicable image right here. You can see for yourself. We should remind everybody that the petition to remove Pete Hoekstra is up to 258,713 signatures, by the way. Hat tip, by the way, to Scott Robertson, also of the MeidasTouch Network. He is our international digital editor, and Scott does such an incredible job finding all of these clips that are critical to showing the strength and power and resolve of Canada, and also calling out the hypocrisy and the attacks on Canada. So hat tip to Scott. And by the way, the post by the White House of the eagle attacking the Canada goose that I just showed you, well, it turns out it's actually real video footage. And as Carl Shimoda explains, Someone just pointed out that, almost unbelievably, this is real footage from a fight in which the Canada Goose ultimately prevailed over the Eagle. If this isn't a metaphor for U.S. trade policy, I don't know what is. And so you had Jamieson Greer, who ran away from the MeidasTouch network. He did do an interview with CBC, and he said that Trump's comments to CNN about him making last-minute demands were off the cuff, and Trump didn't really mean those words. Here, play this clip.
The president himself was asked yesterday in an interview whether you guys, the U.S., had added some things at the last minute, and he didn't deny it. He even said, hey, that sounds like me. So were there things that the United States added in those last couple of days, and why were they added at that point?
Yeah, no, they weren't, and I think anyone who watches the clip or hears what the president told CNN, it was off the cuff. He said, that sounds like me. The reality is the last time the president spoke with Prime Minister Carney was Tuesday night, and there was some meeting of the minds. And so the Canadian story has been, well, it was later in the week that things were added, and that's, we felt, the president, we all felt so comfortable that there was a meeting, there were agreements on specific rates, specific percentages, et cetera. Hard to change those things after a given time. Which
kind of goes to what the Ontario Premier Doug Ford said earlier today. Again, this is different than his press conference yesterday. It kind of looks like a similar background, but this is from this morning. Premier Doug Ford said, try to make a deal with Howard Lutnick and Trump. They keep moving the goalpost. You can't trust them. Here, play this clip.
Try to make a deal with Howard Lutnick and President Trump. They kept moving the goalpost on the prime minister, and he did the right thing. And he has overwhelming support across the country. So he made the right decision at the end of the day. And I appreciate that decision, because we're going to fight like we've never fought before against President Trump. We're going to create the climate and conditions in collaboration with municipalities in the country and the federal government to attract more investment, which we've seen over $230 billion of investment. We led North America because we've worked with the municipalities, federal government, provincial government in job creation. 52,000 jobs last month, 120,000 new full-time jobs over 4 months. We hammered the U.S. as their unemployment, they actually lost jobs. We gained jobs, even in uncertain times. So we're going to continue working together and make sure we have a strong country, strong municipalities, and a strong province.
Now back to Jamieson Greer, who ran away from the MeidasTouch correspondent. He was asked, why would Canada sign a deal without any guarantees that you would continue to respect the deal? And he responds, what? What deal did we break? We don't break deals here. And the host is like, yeah, you do. Kuzma, the deal that you all did, and you started imposing tariffs on us and declared a trade war and called us the 51st state. In what sick, delusional, gaslighting, weirdo world do you live in? And this is the thing that I think also makes the Trump regime look so utterly weak. Look, you're horrible humans. You're evil. You're pieces of trash. That's who you are, okay? So own it. Own it. At least, if you own it, you can be like, yeah, this is who we are. We're evil. You gaslight and you just show how weak you are and you hide from it. And you go into your little victim cocoon and everybody sees how weak you are. Play this clip.
Why would Canada sign a deal without even any guarantees that you would continue to respect the deal, given that you haven't respected Kuzma?
So which deal is that we haven't respected that we've signed over the past year? Like, I'm just not familiar with that. I mean, we have made
you've added tariffs.
A dozen deals.
Yeah, you've added tariffs. I'm talking about Canada. You've added tariffs, right, above and beyond the free trade agreement, and that sort of contradicts what a free trade agreement is, of course.
So we have USMCA, and we built into it a 6-year review, because in our view, you can't just sign an agreement and never revisit it. If you have it eternally, like if I'm a business person, which we try to be in the American government, we try to think about what's good for workers, what's good for companies. You don't have an agreement that just goes on forever without ever being revisited. We have not renewed USMCA. USMCA includes specific exclusions for national security measures. And so steel, aluminum, autos, these are all national security measures for us. that fall within the exclusions within USMCA. So we're doing what's right for the United States. We've offered to bring Canada along. Wasn't good enough for them.
Like, after that interview, and it was obvious that Jamieson Greer looked like a pathetic little clown. No offense to pathetic little clowns. They behave much better than Greer. The White House rapid response account goes, Jamieson Greer, schools, the Canadian host. I mean, schools, the Canadian host? Like, what the hell are you talking about? As Scott Robertson explains, they have so much contempt for Canada that even when making their case on Canadian television, they can't help but being total assholes. Well said, Scott. Jamieson Greer then goes on to say, if there's further retaliation from the Canadian side, we, of course, are not going to just sit down and take the retaliation. Jamieson, my guy, Jamieson, retaliation, which means you attacked first, you moron, and they're responding. They're retaliating because you've declared a trade war against them. Oh my God, don't you punch back? If you punch back, we're going to punch you again. You sound like the complete idiot and moron that you are. And this is what you've turned the United States into. And it's really sad. Here, play this clip.
What will it take to get back to the table, Ambassador? Who makes the first move here in your mind?
Well, the Canadians, put out a press release saying they were suspending the talks. The Canadian side is proceeding with additional retaliation and a variety of things like that. So it's not clear to me on that front. I mean, the reality is we have a trade policy. It's global in nature. We're proceeding with it. If there's further retaliation from the Canadian side, we of course we're not going to just sit down and take that. Our view is don't retaliate. But I know that, I know how people are feeling in Canada and what they think. So, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And we have our own trade policy, and we'll proceed with it in the way that's best for the United States.
So then Jamieson Greer goes on state regime media Fox. He had to do that. He goes on Laura Ingraham, and Laura Ingraham's like, oh my God, now they're saying the toilet prices, the toilet paper prices are going to go up. Come on, that's not going to, that's not good. Why wouldn't it happen? Where do you think we get our paper from? Where do you think we get our crude from? Where do you think we get our aluminum and nickel from? Where do you think our lobstermen utilize in trade in Maine? Where do you think the United States gets so many critical minerals from? Where do do you realize there's a symbiotic auto relationship as well? Oh my God. The toilet paper isn't going to go. Why? That's the way tariffs work. That's the way trade wars work. I mean, why are these people so idiots? Such idiots. Here, play this clip.
The media is going crazy over what they think is unfair treatment of our friends, the Canadians. This is my favorite of all the headlines, I think, from The Guardian, obviously a liberal rag in the UK. But they're warning that this tariff action against Canada and the trade war is going to lead to surging toilet paper prices because of your, I guess your failure, Jamieson. Like you couldn't get, so now everybody can't afford their toilet paper. Is there any truth to that toilet paper headline?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty silly, right? I mean, the reality is the tariffs that were imposed on Saturday on Canada, we warned Canada 5 weeks ago about this. Everyone knew this could happen, and it only affects about 5% of imports from Canada into the United States. Only like 0.2% of American imports overall, only 0.06% of American consumption. So the concept that this could have any kind of meaningful effect on the United States is quite limited. And guess what? If there's something in there that has some negative effect that is brought to the attention of President Trump, he can do what he needs to do. I mean, this is just not going to lead to any economic Armageddon for us.
Are toilet paper prices going to go up?
I highly doubt that based on this. We make toilet paper in America, right? We make it here.
No. Well, they're very upset with you in the American media because if it's a choice between China and the United States or Canada and the United States, they're never going with the United States with Trump in office. Never. They're always going to go with Canada and China. That's a Ingram Angle rule of thumb.
And then Jamieson Greer's like, and what's important to note, Donald Trump has taken strong action against the world. Two countries retaliated, China and Canada. They're mimicking China. They're just like China. Okay. You're admitting you attacked the world. Yes, you attacked the entire world, and the world has moved on. You think this has made you strong? The U.S. economy is suffering right now, and the world has formed alliances outside of the U.S. In 2 years, you have sped up significantly the ultimate downcline of the U.S. and the rise of China. Great work, Jamieson, Greer. Your legacy is being the biggest idiot ever. Good. I mean, it's hard to there's a lot of Trump regime officials actually with that title. Here, play this clip.
Well, one of the interesting takes on all of this came from like a Chinese state media source essentially saying that Canada launched a Chinese-style counterattack against the United States. It was almost like, I mean, conspiracy theory sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it almost sounds like they were consulting with China on how to deal with Trump, when perhaps they think Trump is perhaps slightly more vulnerable politically than he was a year ago.
Well, Laura, if you just look back at the past year and a half of the Trump presidency, the president has taken strong action against the world. We haven't really singled countries out. We have a global action to protect American jobs, American industry. I have two countries that have retaliated over that time: the People's Republic of China and Canada. And by the way, in a lot of ways, we've settled out with China on key issues. So it's really just Canada. So they are mimicking the kind of things that Canada would do at the same time that they're welcoming Chinese electric vehicles and potential investment in Chinese auto production in Canada.
Now, you mean they're mimicking China, what China would do?
That's exactly right. Yes.
And then I want to play you just this right here on CTV. You'll see this political news commentator, Scott Reed. They're like, so the U.S. So for the U.S., they're invading Canada and Iran. Like, it's us and Iran. Like, what are they doing here? Play this clip.
It's just, you got to pinch yourself almost and say, we're being measured, or we're being talked about in the same breath, Canada is, as Iran right now. Like, he's got this two-pronged war happening, and I think a lot of people don't understand it. And yet yesterday from the ministers, and I'm wondering what you thought about their transparency, Jolie was very clear saying, we're being very strategic in the markets that we're going after, where this goes and how much pain Trump can take.
I think that's going to be a fascinating question to watch resolve itself, because Donald Trump has never exhibited the ability, despite all this tough talk and his macho peacocking, he has never demonstrated in his business or his political career the ability to sustain direct discomfort. He's thin-skinned. He's glass-jawed. That is the reality of this guy.
Then Ambassador McFaul, former U.S. ambassador to Russia under the Obama administration. Here's what he had to say. Let's play this clip.
But I disagree with the premier. I think he's wrong. We treat communist China, Xi Jinping. President Trump treats communist leader Xi Jinping much better than he treats our Canadian allies, much better than he treats our South Korean allies, much better than he treats our European democratic allies. And that's the paradox, the tragic paradox of this moment, that President Trump seems to like to get along better with communist dictators, autocratic dictators, than he does with our democratic allies. He bullies our allies and he appeases the autocrats. And in the short run, in the beginning of the administration, and I've talked to several governments about this, they had a strategy, let's just deal with the crazy uncle, let's appease him, let's capitulate, we have more important things to do than fight over this stuff. But President Trump just keeps doubling down. He has over-personalized his foreign policy. It's all about him. It's whims. It's not about America's national interests. It's hard to have a rational conversation with him about these things. The Canadian trade deal is part of that. The South Korean, we're stopping training exercises with our South Korean allies just because he's mad at them about their position on Iran. And so that over-personalization and that bully mentality, people are finally tired of it. They're just saying enough is enough, and they're just waiting him out. I think they're just waiting him out, hoping that we'll have a different kind of president.
Anyway, there you have it, folks. Hit subscribe. We'll keep you posted if Pete Hoekstra does an interview with Charlie Angus. In the meantime, hit subscribe here. We're grateful for you. We love you, Meidas Canada. We stand in solidarity with you, Meidas Canada. We really do. You are the leaders of the free world right now. Prime Minister Carney is the leader of the free world, and that's just the way it is. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Help Charlie Angus and Meidas Canada hit 300,000 subscribers. They're very close to hitting 300,000. Just search Meidas Canada. Thanks everybody so much. We love you.
Breaking news right now. My brothers and I wrote a book. It's called WTF America. And well, doesn't that just say it all? It comes out officially this October, but you can pre-order your copy today. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description below.